Welcome to the first Chuckcast. It's late. I'm in Milwaukee. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. Our inaugural guest today is Joe Whitney. He'll likely be a frequent guest on Chuckcast. And we're excited to talk about the NBA. We just finished up the draft, just finished up the finals. Free agency is in full swing. And so here we go. There might be some bumps in the road. We'll work through those, and we'll bring you the best sports talk that we can here tonight, and we'll see where this stuff goes going forward. Joe, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. Well, I'm far away. Wisconsin Dells about 2 hours away, but it's a good night to have a podcast, and it's a good night to be the inaugural guest on Chuckcast. So I hope we can get to the bottom of some of the recent interesting developments in the NBA.
So let's start things off with the big story. Obviously, Dwight Howard to the Rockets, joining James Harden and Chandler Parsons. Your thoughts on Dwight going to the Rockets? The right move for Dwight?
Well, yes. I would most definitely say it's the right move. Not only does it best fit Dwight Howard, which, as all NBA fans know, Dwight Howard is a type of individual where he's going to put himself first. And he is going to make sure that he's in the best situation for Dwight Howard. And I truly believe that he has found that in Houston. I feel that Kevin McHale, who is a famous champion for the Boston Celtics for years, is now the head coach. I think that he has the mentality and can shape Dwight Howard into the type of player that he wants to be. I also feel that Dwight Howard's surrounding cast is very beneficial for his success. And it seems that he hopefully has found that with James Harden, who was a premier player in the NBA this year, and will hopefully do his best to achieve high level in the future. So I think it's a great move. Only time will tell. But so far, Dwight Howard has definitely made us all watch and be in awe of his situation.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you there that Dwight has definitely put himself first throughout his career. But I'll say that if you look at the situations, the Rockets, they were the best situation for him. You could make the argument that the Warriors, with their young talent, were also a good situation. But there would have had to have been a sign and trade. They probably would have lost some of the young talent. And with him going straight up to the Rockets, joining James Harden, they're going to contend right away. He's not going to have to feel the pressure. For the Rockets, though, only time will tell. I still don't think they're better than Oklahoma City immediately, because I don't know if Dwight is going to return to the Dwight we saw in Orlando. If he's the Dwight we saw in Los Angeles, then he's going to be overpaid.
Yes, and I would say that really is the question. We're going to see at what level can Dwight Howard perform. And I'll just give you a quick run over of the teams that were involved in this potential free agent signing. And it was the Atlanta Hawks had an outside chance. The Warriors were in there too up until the end. They were very opportunistic about their chances to get Dwight Howard. Dallas Mavericks, of course, the Houston Rockets, and then the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, the team that he was on prior.
But of those teams, who do you think really even had a shot at Dwight?
Honestly, I think it was between the Warriors and the Lakers. I think all the other teams were far-fetched. And to be honest, I think Dwight Howard chose Houston partially because they could offer him, I believe, $11 million more and about $3 million per year, more than any other team on that list, excluding the LA Lakers. So I think that's part of the reason.
Well, no state tax in Texas as well.
Yep, there's a little tax break in Texas, so there's a few incentives that I felt like he really is going to benefit from. But ultimately, I think this was a basketball choice and not a money choice, because Dwight Howard, for him to be a premier center in the NBA, he's going to have to have some championship success. It's not something that he's going to be able to prove in a regular season. So, a lot a lot of interesting things to watch in the future.
Do you think that going to Houston and getting away from the spotlight a bit of LA, it will be good for Dwight?
Yes, that is something that I believe when the situation was going down, Shaquille O'Neal, a Los Angeles great championship owner, he said it best. He said, Dwight will be going to a little city, and then Shaq repeated himself, and he goes, yes, a little city. And that kind of sums it up right there. Houston's not really in comparison to the crowd and media outlets that are in LA. So I think Dwight Howard, really didn't want to be under the bright lights, and I think the pressure maybe was getting to him. But also, really when we come down to it, it's what you can prove on the basketball court, and it's not about really the size of the city, as San Antonio just showed.
And I think, and I'll agree with you. I don't think the size of the city matters as much as people maybe make it out to be. Kevin Durant's the number 2 star in the league, and he plays in Oklahoma City, which is much smaller than Houston. So, Dwight is still going to have the spotlight on him. The media won't be as intense as it is in LA. He won't have the same pressure of continuing on the Lakers' legacy, but he is still going to have the media there, and now that this free agency circus is over, maybe he can return to focusing on basketball. But what he needs to do is show that he's willing to work in the off season with those coaches, Kevin McHale, and work with Hakeem Olajuwon, and dedicate himself to becoming a better player when no one's watching, as opposed to only when people are.
Yes, and I will say that the free agency was kind of a domino effect that started with Dwight Howard. So these teams that were involved in his acquiring really made their decisions after Dwight Howard made his decision. So the whole kind of NBA media was just waiting on Dwight Howard, and I think that that's something that he was kind of enjoying in the moment, being in control of his decision influenced so many other people. And I think that was his way to kind of get the spotlight, very similar to how LeBron James did it a few years back.
Sure.
But it's these players, they take advantage of the media when it plays, and you can do that in a small city, and you can do that in a town like LA.
Neither of these have worked well for either player. There's always some backlash to these.
Yes. The fans really won't ever, kind of understand how the players decide to do it. It's just, we can't really relate to it as normal people, and then having that much attention, it's just kind of, it's a polar effect, I think.
So you touched on the domino effect. So some of the other signings, I think the next biggest signing is likely Iguodala to the Golden State Warriors. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's the second biggest effect or second biggest story?
Yeah, I would say that, because I think we all watched, all the fans of the NBA watched how the playoffs played out. And what's funny is actually the Warriors defeated the Nuggets, the team that Iguodala was on, in the playoffs. So it's kind of like he just played against the team that he's going to play for. And I think he kind of realized that this Golden State team really has the young talent that's needed to build a franchise on, and to build a type of team that's going to bring championship banners to the arena and championship rings on their fingers. So I think, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Harrison Barnes, was a freshman from UNC, and he's 6'10", and he can pretty much do anything and defend anyone in any position. I remember when Warriors were playing San Antonio, the Western Conference champions, Harrison Barnes, a rookie, was starting and guarding at times Tony Parker, who definitely was the best at his position in the finals. He held the Spurs and took the Spurs as far as he could take them, which was Game 7, the last game, potentially to win or lose the entire championship, which is very impressive. So I think it's very good. I think the fans should be excited because Golden State was a team where any basketball fan could enjoy watching them. So I think it's a lot of interesting things and intriguing things that will happen this upcoming season.
So who do you think finishes with a better record? Houston with Dwight Howard or the Golden State Warriors with Andre Iguodala?
I'm going to have to say that the Warriors will have far more wins than the Houston Rockets. To me, not only do I think Dwight Howard has skills that need to develop further. I also think that his supporting cast.
But 9 years in, isn't his skill set done? Isn't his potential over?
He's defensively and he's physically, at some point, if he's healthy, sound. What he needs to improve on is his offensive skill set, and he needs to definitely increase his free throw shooting percentage because he is at times a detriment to the team down the stretch with his free throw and the way that the rules are set up in the NBA, where up until 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, you can have a foul intentionally. So, if the rules were to change, maybe he would be a little more of an asset to me on a championship caliber team. But, on a key to, we can compare Tim Duncan. He's someone who started the league, was notoriously a poor free throw shooter. If you look at over his tenure in the NBA, he increased his free throw percentage by around 20%. So he started maybe as a 55% free throw shooter, ended as almost a 75% free throw shooter. So it is a skill that you can develop over time, and I think that's where Dwight Howard's at. He needs someone who's going to work on these individual offensive skills, and make him a complete player. And when he does that, then Houston could be right in the mix with championship talk.
So Houston finished 8th last year in the standings, and Golden State finished 6th. So you think how much does Golden State improve in the standings? Do they stay at 6th, or where do they move?
I think they're right in there in the top 4. I think that they'll compete and be within 5 to 7 games of first place. I think the Western Conference is a very talented and they're top heavy, you could say, in the West. In the East, it's a little different story. You have a few teams who are going to compete, and then it drops off kind of dramatically. But the Western Conference, I think, the Golden State Warriors, with their youth, they have kind of a perseverance, and their coach, Mark Jackson, he's defensively sound, and he's a defensive leading coach. So that's something that's gonna help when his guys don't have good shooting nights and they're struggling from the field. That coaching, that teamwork that he emphasizes will really be critical. And I think that's where they get the upper edge on a team like Houston. And then with the youth, I think that's where they get the upper hand on a team like San Antonio. San Antonio was lucky not to have to play them, but I think if they did, it would be a different outcome for their championship run that they gave. Because the youth of Golden State is really something that's critical throughout an 82-plus year schedule.
Do you think then, so Golden State is in the same division as the Clippers, the Lakers, Sacramento, and Phoenix. You can write off Sacramento and Phoenix right there for that division.
Right away.
The Lakers are going to be garbage also with no Kobe. Paul Gasol is the best player on the team, and him and Mike D'Antoni don't get along. They don't like each other. We'll see if they can coexist through the course of another season. So Golden State and the Clippers for that Pacific Division crown, the Clippers, they've improved, I think, immensely with the change from Vinny Del Negro, who was a non-coach, was worse than an average coach, was couldn't even draw up plays, couldn't even call plays, to Doc Rivers, who has a championship. So I think that's a huge improvement. They won 56 games last year. They're returning mostly the same team because Bledsoe was injured most of the year, although they traded him. So they've got Redick. Doc will know how to use Redick, coming around screens like Ray Allen. So I like the Clippers for an improvement on their win total. I do like Golden State for an improvement on theirs, but so I'll agree with you. They'll take second place in that Pacific Division, but you think they'll be right up there with the wins? You think they're going to be better than Memphis and better than Denver, huh?
Yes.
I think Denver's gone backwards. I think maybe Denver has gone backwards. Your thoughts on that?
Denver has gone backwards by losing and not keeping Andre Iguodala. Denver Nuggets have definitely gone backwards. I do agree with everything that you said about the Clippers as a team. They've gone forward, and let's keep in mind that they have the best point guard in the NBA in Chris Paul. So their team is if Blake Griffin can stay healthy, which if we remember, the only reason they started to slip against the Grizzlies in that series, they were up 2-0, and then the Grizzlies won 4 games in a row. So, and part of the reason was because Blake Griffin sprained his ankle that third game, and he was never the same player. And I mean, all teams will overcome injury or have to, kind of step up in the moment, with injuries, but the Clippers are a team where they rely on a star like they do with Chris Paul or like they do with Blake Griffin, then they're going to need better help from their supporting cast. And I think they've done that with JJ Redick. I really think that his consistency in shooting is really going to be something that they can count on throughout the year.
But do you think they've improved? Do you think they've improved at all, other than Doc Rivers? Do you think they've improved at all for the playoffs? They still haven't improved really defensively. I mean, they got with Jared Jeffries from Phoenix in the trade, correct? As well.
Jared Dudley.
Jared Dudley.
Yes, and he's an excellent shooter as well. He's he's capable of making open shots, but he also needs someone to create for him, and that's where Chris Paul comes into play. So, I mean, to me, the Clippers are going to be very much so in the conversation at the end of the year and throughout the playoffs if they can stay healthy. We saw this with the Oklahoma City Thunder. With the point guard goes down, that's where that Eric Bledsoe, that backup point guard, can really make a difference in a team's success rate. Throughout the year and throughout this interim of the year, the summer league and the summer time period, I think that's where you kind of fix your holes, and I think that's what the Clippers were trying to do with their shooting, with Dudley, JJ Redick, and then their coaching. Clearly, you said Vinny Del Negro was not really, he was not coming through with their expectations. So, I would have that to say for sure.
All right. So, any other moves that stand out to you that are going to cause some shakeups in the league?
Since you're in Milwaukee this evening, this is the inaugural.
Oh, don't talk about my Bucks. Don't talk about my Bucks. Oh, they're killing me. I don't know what they're doing. They're clearly set on the 8th seed. They are clearly set on doing whatever it takes to get the 8th seed. Some people are very against the Zaza Pachulia signing. I do think they overpaid for Zaza Pachulia. He's not going to help win you really basketball games when it comes down to it. I'm a bigger fan of OJ Mayo than a lot of people. I do think they paid a premium to get him, but you're going to pay a premium to get anyone to come to Milwaukee. Have you seen the facilities here? They're not exactly the best, and so
they're very close to terrible.
Yeah,
for NBA standards.
And that's the problem is you have an owner that's trying to get the community to basically help pay for a new stadium, and so he wants to have a winner to try and convince them to do that, and so they're not willing to bottom out. They should be a team that is in a full rebuild mode, but instead they're signing mediocre free agents, which is just going to take them to maybe 40 wins, 42 wins. What's the goal, to get to 500 for the next 2 years? I mean,
let's just say they have that 8th seed seeds locked down, okay? And if they don't achieve at least that this upcoming season, then I think that their hopes at least would not be satisfied, because that 8th seed they have locked, like you said, they're signing very, mediocre free agents. They're not really going for the big names. They're kind of being safe with it, but what they're trying to do is be just good enough to put people in the crowd. And that's something where the question comes down to it is, will you go to a Bucks game this upcoming season? I mean, to our fans out there, question is have you ever been to a Bucks game? And then the second question would be, following that one, would be, will you go for this upcoming season? And me, as a fan, I think that I could support my Bucks. What I need is a motivated and well-coached Brandon Jennings at the point guard, because that's really their struggles, was the Monte Ellis, Brandon Jennings duo really wasn't working. It wasn't really reaching the expectations that were set. And I think that's
two undersized guards who don't play defense didn't work.
Amazingly enough, that didn't work. But I think that's where we're seeing the departure of Monte Ellis, and then the potential departure of Brandon Jennings. I think Brandon Jennings will be on the team, but it is still kind of up in the air with. He is a free agent, so only time will tell. I do like their signing with O.J. Mayo. O.J. Mayo really did, at the beginning of last year, we'll remember Dirk Nowitzki was out, so he had, not really a strong supporting cast in Dallas there, and he kind of led the team offensively. I will say, I remember a few games specifically where he hit very critical shots down the stretch to keep the Mavericks in games, and I think that's something he can bring to Milwaukee. I think he can bring that, consistency in shooting and an offensive threat with their kind of well-known inconsistencies as a team. I think that'll help their potential.
Okay, so let's run through the Eastern and Western conferences here quick. Who we think is already making the playoffs for next year. Top 3 seeds in the Western Conference. Obviously, you like Oklahoma.
Obviously, the Heat. Western Conference, obviously, I'm going to have to go. I'm going to have to go with either the Clippers or. Western Conference is tough for me. I'm going to actually need to hear your 3 first.
I like Westbrook and Durant with Oklahoma City and the Clippers battling it out for the 1 and the 2 seeds, depending on how quickly Westbrook returns. I like San Antonio to stay in there and stay in the mix. They're a professional franchise. They're going to win basketball games. And that's just the way it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
Denver, I think, has slipped. They were the 3 seed last year. They've slipped. Memphis has pretty much stayed the same, I'd say. So you could maybe move them up to maybe keep them at that 5th seed. Maybe Golden State jumps over Memphis and takes the 4 seed. With the improvement with Iguodala and improving the defense. Houston. And then Houston's the wild card. Where does Houston fit in? Is Houston as good as they could be as on paper with James Harden and Dwight Howard? Only time will tell. So that's seven locks right there. And so that 8th seed goes down to who?
LA, maybe.
No, maybe. The rest of these teams are probably going to be in tank mode. Maybe it's going to come down to LA and Dallas.
I really don't want to ever underestimate Kobe Bryant's ambition and his motivation to win. So, as long as he's on a team, that team has to be taken into consideration.
So I'll throw it down as locks right now. Those top 7 playoffs teams, and the 8th seed, either Lakers or Dallas for the 8th seed. And we'll see. But all those other Western teams are in tank mode.
1, I'll go Golden State at the 3 seed. Their youth and their offensive capabilities, I think they'll always be a threat. So I'm gonna have to throw them in at 3. Number 2, I would definitely say the Clippers with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. You have stars right there that you can rely on. And then 1, I do like the OKC. My only hesitation is Russell Westbrook and really that duo. If that duo is healthy, I think that they can beat any team any night. So those are the 3. The East, I think we could jump to the East because it's a little more easy at the top with the Heat, and then I think you have to put the Bulls at number 2 with Derrick Rose. I think that they're always going to be reliant on their defense and their athleticism. And in the weak East, I will call it, them that the defense and is something you can rely on. Predominantly the East does not score more than 90 points a game, and when that happens, the Bulls usually can win.
So you like Miami, Chicago? Do you like New York or Brooklyn?
I like Brooklyn.
So what do you think about that Garnett and Pierce trade to Brooklyn for the corpse
Brooklyn
of Gerald Wallace?
Brooklyn, I might have to put a tie for second. That is a team that there's a lot of uncertainty involved in the team, but I think if we're just speaking off of potential, I think that's a team that should be taken seriously. I think you have championship caliber mentality, and then you have youth with Joe Johnson. You have I think at least the key components to win. So, and then beyond that,
Indiana is a lock.
Indiana's a lock for 3.
Miami a lock at that, Milwaukee a lock at the 8th seed. And then Atlanta lost Josh Smith, Zaza Pachulia.
There's teams like the Cavs and the Pistons
and Washington.
Washington is a team that could be a threat for that 8th or 7th seed as well. John Wall's a player who.
So there'll definitely be a shakeup out east in the bottom half of the bracket.
Yeah, the East to me, as long as Miami still has LeBron James, is very predictable.
You know who I like out west that I forgot is Minnesota. I like Minnesota for that 8th playoff spot, getting Kevin Love back, doing the Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio thing.
Yeah. Well, I believe that Summer League is occurring as well, so I was wondering your thoughts on some of these new stars coming out and showing their talents, trying to get a contract.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Summer League. Huge fan.
It's quite interesting. Not very many of our fans may have the opportunity to watch if they don't have NBA TV. But it really, what I think it is like, it's kind of an interview that you can watch offhand. You can see these players compete for basically a job, and they're at all different levels. There are people who got drafted. There are people who didn't get drafted. There's people who played on teams and came off the bench. There's people who played in leagues in Australia or Spain or, other places. There's a lot of different mixes of talent, and it's really interesting to be able to watch these players go, 110% trying to get that spot on a roster.
So you've been watching Summer League. Who's your favorite? Who do you think has looked the best so far?
It's the Orlando Summer League, so there's only 10 teams involved. But I think offhand, I would definitely have to say Victor Oladipo the number 2 draft pick. He is the highest draft pick that is currently playing. The number 1 seed is not, so he is kind of the star of the summer league, and he is not letting down his viewers. So he is known for his defense and his athleticism, and I think that he's shocking people with his scoring ability. I think that the Magic had a tremendous draft pick at the number 2 spot, and it's looking like he could be, a very prominent player for them this upcoming season. Also,
He's filling up the stat sheet, that's for sure. He's getting rebounds, he's getting assists. He's, in 3 games, he's already got 4.7 rebounds, 4.7 assists per game, and 3 steals. So he's filling up the stat sheet, but his field goal percentage is 34%. So he's going to have to improve that. But he's going to be able to take shots in Orlando to work on it, that's for sure.
Yes, he's in a good situation in Orlando.
Are you worried about the fact that the Magic are 1-2 though so far in those 3 games?
I'm not. I don't think that this is really the way that the scoring occurs. Is these 10 teams are competing for points, and you get 3 points for a victory, and you get 1 point for winning a quarter. So basically, at the end, the winners will be decided by the point system. And I think that the team aspect of it is secondary to the kind of individual critiquing that's occurring with the players themselves. Really, some certain players are getting thrown into roles that they're not used to because the way that the system is set up. So I think really, as we discussed with Victor Oladipo, his field goal percentage needs to increase. But I think when he becomes comfortable, he will definitely work on that aspect of his game. I think that just by watching him and getting to see him play firsthand, he is definitely capable of doing so. It's just a matter of time and effort.
Anyone else? Who else has impressed you in Summer League?
Well, I believe that Michael Carter Williams is my number 2 to on who to watch list. He had a he kind of snuck in there at the 11th pick with the 76ers. 76ers got rid of Drew Holiday, so he's kind of coming in as this, very athletic and tall point guard. And the NBA is kind of converting to this larger, point guard role where, guys who are 6'6", 6'5" can now play the position. And, coming out of Syracuse, I think that's what people like about him is that he's tall, he can pass the ball, he's very ball sound in dribbling. His assist-to-turnover ratio is tremendous, and I think that these aspects of his game, along with his athleticism, is going to be something that can allow him to thrive as an NBA point guard.
He's also been shooting quite poorly, though, so far, shooting 28% from the field. He has been averaging 7.5 assists per game, 2 games, small sample size, but
and that's really what we're looking at. Basically, when it comes down to it, most of these players are shooting poorly. Number 1, because they haven't ever played together. They're playing on teams that didn't practice. It's like throwing 5 guys out on the court, telling them to run an offense, and then judging them like you would judge a team who just made it to Game 7 and has been playing together all year. So really, you can only look at so much with statistics regarding this situation because it is kind of an on-the-fly creation. But it is something to take into consideration. I will say that there's been a few standouts that have performed at a high level offensively if we're speaking towards efficiency. But I think that's very useful to note.
Who else has impressed you?
Well,
Carter Williams, Oladipo. You know who I like so far? Who we saw flashes of last year in the playoffs. One Mr. Reggie Jackson from Oklahoma City.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I believe Oklahoma City, if they aren't still leading, they're close to the top. With
3-0 so far.
3-0, yes. They were number one. I missed a few games tonight. I was attending to other things. But I did get to watch them play, and that's what you're going to see. You're going to see teams that have players with more experience, that have already played in the NBA. They're going to do well. These are judged at the end. It's a team sport, but really the summer leagues in Orlando, they're 5 days long. Each team's going to play most likely every night, maybe with one night of rest, and really it's just individuals getting thrown out there and seeing how good they can do at doing certain things, and really not judging their complete game. But yeah, Oklahoma City has done a great job. But like you said, Reggie Jackson with Russell Westbrook's injury, he got valuable experience that he's clearly is showing now during the summer.
37 minutes a game in the conference finals. 30 minutes a game in the first round, and he improved largely. From the first to the second round. Assists went up, turnovers went down, rebounds went up. So he's looking like he might be able to ease the pain of losing a player like James Harden, or if Westbrook's out for a while, he may be able to maybe stop the bleeding. So, what do you think about Andre Drummond playing in Summer League? Is he someone that needs to be in Summer League?
Well, he is a player that has had very limited success in the NBA. He hasn't played on a very talented team thus far. And I believe that in every situation, this type of competition can grow individual as a basketball player. So I think he's probably getting vital use of this opportunity.
He's still somehow the youngest player at Summer League, even though he was in the league last year. He was born August 10th, 1993. Only 19 years old. Still the youngest player in Summer League somehow.
I amazingly did not know that, but that is a great fact. But he's a 7-footer, and I think that what's great when you go and watch these Summer League games is head coaches are there, as we discussed previously, and I just had a technical malfunction. But as we discussed earlier, these coaches are really just scouts, these head coaches right now. And what they're doing is they are scouting for their bench and their reserved players. Most of these teams kind of have their starting five. I'll give you a perfect example is the Utah Jazz. So they drafted Trey Burke, number 6 overall, and they currently there's a good chance that he will start this year. He is going to get thrown into that point guard position. Mo Williams is most likely going to be leaving Utah and using his free agent opportunity to obtain a contract that is to his liking, because he did play valuable minutes for the Utah Jazz down the stretch. But Trey Burke is a player that is going to he's playing and he's going to get that big starting contract. But most of these players will not. They're competing, just for this sixth man and beyond position. So what's interesting is just that you have the head coaches, and they're not actually coaching at these games. They're more just scouts for their teams. And Eric Spoelstra has has been on the sidelines for all these games. Jason Kidd has been there. He's the newest coach in the NBA, one of the newest hires just a few weeks ago, and he's already seen his first action. So it gives these coaches an opportunity to judge talent, and it also gives the players an opportunity to play for these final spots on rosters.
What were your thoughts of Jason Kidd getting teed up in his first night on the bench there in Summer League?
He did. He caused some media when he did that act, and he didn't do it. There was no disrespect that Jason Kidd portrayed. It was simply just the fact of his situation regarding his location on the court. So he just stepped a little bit too far over his zone that's restricted for coaches, and the ref had no choice. But there's no hard feelings, and I think it was really just a learning experience for Jason, that he's not a player anymore. He's not out on the court. He can't actually go touch the basketball and dribble it and, miss 40 shots like he did in a row for the Knicks in the playoffs.
Now he is not really that old by NBA standards, because there's players in the NBA that are older than him, isn't that right?
Yeah, there's a total of 3 NBA players that are older than Jason Kidd, and I think you're going to start to see this in the NBA more frequently in future off seasons, is when these coaching changes are made, they're going to go to type of individuals who have had playing experience. And I think that if you look at coaching success rate, that this is kind of a pivotal background that creates success. So you saw this with Mark Jackson, with the Golden State Warriors. He was a great point guard for the New York Knicks for many years. He played with Allen Houston, Latrell Sprewell, played against Jordan in some very famous NBA Eastern Conference Finals games. So I think these new coaches are going to be younger, they're going to be players, they're going to be, kind of able to interact with these hot-headed, multi-million-dollar players because they were one. So it's, something that I think will be interesting to watch.
All right, but we got to get going. I know you got things to do. I got things to do. Anything else you want to really touch on quickly here?
No, I think that hopefully there's been some new occurrences that will lead people to become more intrigued in the NBA offseason, because it really is something that is fun to watch. So
we've got more.
We've got more time, and then feel free to watch.
Yeah, we've got more deals to get through. There will be more trades, more signings, still some free agents out there. Summer League going on till the 12th, so we'll probably follow up with you towards the end of that. And then the Las Vegas Summer League starts July 12th through the 22nd. And, we'll continue through with that. And I know we got to talk to you about golf at some point, too. You're trying out doing the Wisconsin State Open, trying to get into that.
Yep.
We'll tell the listeners about that. And
future conversations, but it's been fun.
Excellent. Well, you have a great day, boss.
Oh, yeah.
Later.